For I say close to thee, Lord, close to thee. For I say close to thee, Lord, close to thee.
Blessed greetings, my lords and empresses, prince and princesses, one and all listeners. Blessed art of love to you all. As you know, you're listening to Bobo Ras Anthony on blessradio.org internationally, Four Winds of the Earth, with the church called Nyabingi, Bobo Shanti Irish. To bless all nations with prayers and songs, music played by the Daniel #1 band, most harmoniously. Chants from the 7 priests of Melchizedek, and choruses sung by the archangels and angels of the Most High. Holy King Emmanuel, King Selassie, Jah, Rastafari, Sila, my Lord. Readings today will be read from Psalms 53, Psalms 100, and Psalms 110. Then we shall be reading from the book called From the Maroons to Marcus. And then we shall be reading from another book called Rastafari. Then we shall be reading from the book Rastafari still, but a passage, the Jamaican Babylonian Foundation origins. And from the same book Rastafari, we shall be reading the work of Leonard Howell. And then maybe we have some time, we'll get some words from my man. So be blessed in his holiness, O children of the Most High. Glorious things are spoken of him who sitteth in the heavens. He's a righteous Father, and he is the mighty life giver, who give us life today that we may come together like birds of a feather, iron sharpening iron, the countenance brightening one another's countenance. One hand wash the other. Oh, God put together. Make no man or woman put asunder. I just saw it, God. Be blessed in his holiness, children of the Most High. You're listening to Bobo Ras Anthony on blessradio.org internationally. Blessed uprising.
And the gate of life eternal.
Yes. Not too bad out there for those who are traveling out this morning. Cool, fresh new Jew day. Skies are grey, but I'm sure by noonday hour they shall become blue again. It's a wonderful morning in life. Let us bless our Father, the mighty life giver. Let the church bells ring. And let all of the children sing. Glory unto his holy and righteous name.
Sweet day by day, sweet voice of death. Say is ready for me.
And I, Selassie, Jah, Rastafari.
Prince and princess shall come out of Egypt. With Ethiopian shall stretch forth your hands unto God, Selassie.
Jah, Rastafari.
Yes, my lords and empresses, princes and princesses, as we usually do, we start with a procession of the 7 priests of Melchizedek, the order of Melchizedek. You know, yeah. City. Close the window. Prepare thyself to be blessed by holiness. get yourself ready. Who know the hymn? Proceed in the words. Others just sit and listen. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh I lie down in green pasture. He leadeth I beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth I in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with I. The rod and the staff, they do comfort I. Thou preparest a table before I, in the presence of mine enemies. Crown them, Jaja, crown them. Crown them, Jaja, crown them. Crown them, Jaja, my Lord. Give ear to my prayer, O God, and hide not thyself from my supplication. Attend unto me, and hear I mourn in my complaint, and I make a noise. Because of the voice of the enemy, because of the oppression of the wicked, for they cast iniquity upon I, and in wrath they hate I. My heart is so pain within I, and the terrors of death are fallen upon I. Oh, Jaja, my Lord, crown him in his heart and his soul. Almighty Father, crown thy son. Save I, O Jah Rastafari, by thy name, and judge me by thy strength. Hear my prayer, O God, give ear to the words of my mouth. For strangers are risen up against I, and oppressors seek after my soul. They have not set thee before them. Sila, Selassie, Jah, Rastafari. Behold, God is my helper. The Lord is with them that uphold my soul. Crown them, Jah, crown him, crown him, crown him, Jah, my Lord. Crown him, O most mighty, with a triple crown, my Lord. Crown him in his heart and his soul. Just getting a bit exuberant. Or just righteousness, you know. Freedom in Isaiah. Freedom in Isaiah. Be free. Mighty God, God in a holy mountain, Zion, Zion, Lord, holy mountain, Zion. Yes, as the sun comes shining through, the gray clouds start moving away. Blessed uprising, children of the Most High. On this blessed new day, let it bring new things for all of us. Oh, wonderment and glory from the seven priests upon the altar of Melchizedek. Holy Emmanuel, I, King Selassie, I, Jah, Rastafari, Selah, my Lord. As we proceed, in the name of our Father, we will succeed. In the name of our mighty King, we will stand and believe. In the name of our mighty Savior, we shall be received. Reading from the book of Psalms, from the sacred seals of King David, seal 53. The fool hath said in his heart, there is no God. Corrupt are they, and have done abominable iniquities. There is none that doeth good. God looked down from heaven upon the children of men to see if there were any that did understand, that did seek God. Every one of them have gone back. They are altogether become filthy. There is none that doeth good, no, not one. Are the workers of iniquity no knowledge, who eat up my people as they eat bread? They have not called upon Jah Rastafari. There were they in great fear, where no fear was. For God hath scattered the bones of him that encampeth against thee. Thou hast put them to shame, because God hath despised them. Oh, that the salvation of Israel will come out of Zion. When God bringeth back the captivity of his people, Jacob shall rejoice, and Israel shall be glad. These are the words of the Almighty. Holy King Emmanuel, I, King Selassie, I, Jah, Rastafari, Selah, my Lord. Blessed uprising, children of the Most High, my lords and empresses, prince and princesses, one and all listeners. Bobo Ras Anthony again, coming at you with righteousness this morning. With a pure heart and a clean hand, I present the holies of the holies. Holy King Emmanuel I, King Selassie I, Jah, Rastafari. Reading from the book of Psalms, from the sacred seals of King David, as the priests are in procession. Make a joyful noise unto the Lord, all ye lands. Serve the Lord with gladness. Come before his presence with singing. Know ye that the Lord, he is God. It is he that hath made us, and not we ourselves. We are his people, and the sheep of his pasture. Enter into his gates with thanksgiving, and into his courts with praises. Be thankful unto him, and bless his holy and righteous name. For the Lord is good, his mercies is everlasting, and his truth endureth forever. Holy King Emmanuel I, King Selassie I, Jah, Rastafari. Continuing reading from the book of Psalms, from the sacred seals of King David, the last Psalms for today, Psalm 110. Holy King Emmanuel I, King Selassie I, Jah, Rastafari. The Lord said unto my Lord, sit down at my right hand, until I make thine enemies thy footstool. The Lord shall send a rod of thy strength out of Zion. Rule thou in the midst of thine enemies. Thy people shall be willing in the day of thy power. In the beauties of thy holiness, from the womb of the morning, thou was the dew of thy youth. The Lord hath sworn, and will not repent. Thou art a priest forever, after the order of Melchizedek. The Lord at thy right hand shall strike true kings in the days of his wrath. He shall judge among the heathen. He shall fill the places with the dead bodies. He shall wound the head over many countries. He shall drink of the brook in the way. Therefore shall he lift up our heads. Lift up our head, O Dada. Lift up our head, O Melchizedek Nigo Salam. Lift up our head that we may see and receive and be, because we believe. Bless us that no one may curse us, and guide us along the way. Holy King Emmanuel I, King Selassie I, Jah, Rastafari. O blessed Father, who sits in the heavens, upon high and seeth all things. Almighty Father, who sitteth in the hearts of all flesh. O blessed King, who saith all my springs are in thee. Pull and tug, guide and protect thy peculiar, I pray thee. Cut and clear, rent and tear for thy people, O most mighty, and devour all stumbling blocks in their way. For righteousness we proclaim today, my Lord. Righteousness we proclaim today. The earth is the Lord's, the fullness thereof, they and them that dwell therein. Save our souls, my Lord, from shame and sin. You're listening to Bobo Ras Anthony on blessradio.org internationally with your churchical Nyabingi Bobo Shanti Iration every Sunday from 10 to 12. Fullness of the heart from Jarastafari, his peculiar children shall never depart. Yes, dear children, it's Reparation, Emancipation Week, when we dwell upon yesterday and seek to seal and stop the blood from bleeding from our souls. This is the month when we plead. This is the month when we plead for one door to be closed and for another door to be open. Yes, yes, my lords and empresses, prince and princesses, one and all listeners. Yenigeta, Yenigeta, Tenelestilin, Tenelestilin, Yenigeta, Wadada Hamlak, to all the children, to all the Ethiopian children. You know, blessed love, my lords and empresses, prince and princesses, one and all listeners. As you know, it's I man, you know, Bobo Ras Anthony as usual. You know, yeah, giving words from the heart, you know, words from my and I thought, you know, and the ingenuity almost I might have my will given to me by the Almighty God, the King. You know, children, seriously, like I said, it's the week, it's the month, reparation month. This is the month when we plead. You know, this is a month when we try to stop the bleeding that has not been healed and not been sealed from such time until now. You know, we were promised £500 each from Queen Victoria, and up to now, we don't get a penny. You understand? And we work and we work and we work, you know. For the children's sake, you know, the next generation, we don't want them to be fussed. Them have too much upon them head already. You know, them out there fight them one another, argue with them one another. They don't even know nothing about each other. The only thing them know is that them can smoke skunk together, smoke weed together, them go to school together, them go to college together, them go to university together, them go dance together, them have them know them quote them one another, you know, and them and the most they can do is work by the sweat of their brow to get their bread and end up buying a house in the controversy of this hypocrisy. Seeing them for know say well directly, and they will know their fathers have been pleading, you know, for settlement, for remunification, for reparation, you know, to bring in the peace amongst our people, that no one may remember again the sadness of yesterday. You know, that there may be a healing and a sealing upon this open gash that keeps bleeding. Year after year we plead with society. Year after year we march upon creation just for this small reparation, that we may be back where we should be perfectly, and that there should be love amongst men because of our doings in brotherhood and sisterhood. Are we gonna make the children suffer, or is it we just want them to bungle up together, you know, and have nothing but nonsense? The only oneness we can have is righteousness as a people, as a nation, as a race of race within races and races. The only thing we can have is righteousness that will bind us all together. That's the only thing that will bind every different color together and make them one. Other than that, we must repent. We must forgive. We must repay. We must heal the scars and bind the cuts. Otherwise, spiritually, we bleed. We might not see it, but the place is red. So I plead from the heart for tomorrow, where I have friends in every nation, and I love all nations. Every nation makes me laugh. Truly. And there's love in every nation. But if we cannot repair that which we should repair, then it will stay broken. And we can't say we love when we don't love. We can't say we do when we don't do. We know a promise is a comfort to a fool, only because it's given to you by a fool. Let us do what we say we are to do, and let there be peace in the hearts of man. Let us look at that man and say, that man saved me today. That man brought a new to my liberty today because of yesterday. Let us try and do what we should do to make peace upon creation, to make peace in the next generation coming? Are we going to continually roll over century and century and century, arguing with one another because of something that should have been long finished and done? This is the time for good news. This is the time where we should be making news like Britain. Give it the slave children reparation for slavery. Magnificent news. News that make the soul rise and let man respect man for their doing. The children of Israel are moving from out of Britain to Ethiopia with a sum undisclosed to build back their lives. These are the news we want to hear on the television and on the radio. Killing this, killing that. What's it what? What's it not? We want to hear the inventions of man. We want to hear the recreations, the greatness of man. We want to hear England and the European countries are bound together to give the slave children reparation for the years of slavery, that we may respect one another and love one another. And who can tell you anything again when you do such thing? Which man won't love a man that forgives him? You forgive a man and he's your friend forever. You help a man and he loves you like a brother. You ignore the truth and you will be hated forever. Let us do right, that right may bless us and keep us all together. For it's written that right is gonna come. But how is it gonna come if we cannot do it? Let us start today. Reading from the book, From Maroon to Marcus. The UNITA, the UNIA, held a total of 8 conventions. 2 of these conventions took place in Kingston, Jamaica in 1929 and 1934. 5 were held in the USA in 1920, 1921, 1922, 1924, 1926. And the final one was held in Toronto, Canada in 1939. The League of Nations was the international organization which preceded the United Nations. The League of Nations was set up in 1919, right after the end of the World War I, 1914, 1919. The UNITA made several representations at the League in the effort to seek the decolonizing of all Germany's African colonies, which were taken away from her by the victorious Allied nations after World War I. Garvey sought through the UNITA to have the African colonies handed over to black independent rule. The first attempt by the UNITA to lobby for the decolonization of these colonies was made in 1919 at the Paris Peace Conference. This was followed by other representations for the League in 1922, 1923, 1928, and 1931. On the one latter occasion, Garvey himself put forward the views of the UNIA, but unfortunately, the League of Nations never accepted his proposals. Sometime in October 1919, a man named George Taylor walked into the UNITA office seeking to meet Marcus Garvey. And when Marcus appeared and they began conversing, the man pulled out a pistol and fired 4 shots, 2 in which hit Garvey, 1 in his head and the other in his leg. Garvey was rushed to the Harlem Hospital, where he was treated for minor injuries and discharged. His would-be assassinator was imprisoned, but he died in jail under strange circumstances before the court could have known why he attempted to take the life of the great philosopher. Garvey's first marriage was to a young girl, Jamaican girl, Amy Ashford, who was a UNIA activist. He married her on December the 25th, 1919, in Liberty Hall, Harlem. Garvey's first occasion with young Amy Ashford began in Jamaica in 1914. However, their marriage did not last too long. It came to an end in less than 2 months after their wedding. On divorcing Amy Ashford in June 1922, while she was away in England, he married another UNIA woman activist also named Amy Jekos, in July 1922. The latter marriage to Amy Jekos lasted until Marcus departed this life in 1940. In 1923, the Black Star Liner was forced into bankruptcy, mainly because there was a lack of proper managerial skills, along with a high degree of dishonesty by both black and white employees. It was said that those persons who were assigned the responsibility to negotiate for the fleets of ships defrauded the company of thousands of dollars. In addition, the white officers quietly sabotaged the line's operation by deliberately wrecking the ship's engines before causing thousands of dollars to be spent on unnecessary repairs. Soon before emancipation of the slavery in the United States of America, Libya was established as an African colony. In 1820, it was set up as an area mainly for African Americans ex-slaves who wanted to resettle in their native African homeland after they had obtained emancipation. In 1920, the UNITA attempted to establish a black colony in Liberia. This was intended to felicitate all Africans living in the Americas, Europe, and the Caribbean who were interested in migrating to Africa. The move to re-establish a link with Liberia came to a halt in 1924. Soon after, a high-powered UNITA delegation made an official visit to the country. The government of Liberia put a stop to UNIA plans, although a UNIA sawmill along with other costly equipment were on the way to Liberia. As a result of this abrupt halt to UNITA's plans to establish links with Liberia, thousands of dollars were again lost by the organization. In 1923, the federal court in the USA imprisoned Garvey for mail fraud and tax evasion. He was sentenced for 5 years in an Atlanta state prison by Judge Julian Mack. He eventually obtained bail, but again was jailed, sentenced in 1925. In November 1927, Garvey's prison term was commuted by President Calvin Coolidge. On his release from prison, Garvey was immediately deported to Jamaica via Panama. From Panama, Garvey, or the Black Messiah, as he was sometimes called by his followers, arranged to return to his native Jamaica, where he revived the UNIA. Marcus got a poem for Marcus Garvey, you and me. When we think of all the care that made life burden great, we long for the passing year to close our sad book of fate. But if we could stop a while and think once the other way, life would be just all a smile as we go on day by day. We should never make a day night, for the darkened life good view. Round that turning is the light that shines as a guide to you. Think of all that is really good, then make it your daily rule. Smile with nature, brotherhood, and none make your footstool. A proverb for every day, and one more for each good night, should make life so pleasant, yeah, would lead us to live all right. Turn not from sane rectitude, but make life just like a song. Go ye not with the multitude to any path that wholly is wrong. One Sunday in 1927, Marcus Garvey prophesied in one of his sermons, "Look to Africa, where a black king shall be crowned, for the day of deliverance is here." And when on November 2nd, 1930, Rastafari Makonnen, also known to the world as Emperor Selassie I, was crowned the 225th monarch of Ethiopia in the lineage which some historians trace to the union of Queen Makeda and of Sheba and Solomon. Most black Jamaicans claim that Garvey was indeed some kind of modern-day apostle or prophet. Garvey and his wife Amy traveled to Europe, Canada, and Bahamas on an extensive lecture tour in 1920. On this tour, he became in contact with young Africans, students studying in London. Jomo Kenyatta. Kenyatta later became the first president of independent Kenya. In early 1929, Marcus started another newspaper, which he called The Black Man. The Black Man became the mouthpiece for all black men and women in the out of Jamaica. Soon after, the UNIA 6th International Convention, which lasts from August the 1st to August the 31st, 1929, Marcus launched the first modern political party in the history of British Caribbean. The name of Marcus of Garvey party was the People's Political Party, PPP. The PPP was formed in time to participate in the legalized council election, which was scheduled for late January 1930. In September 1929, during his election campaign, Garvey was charged for gross contempt. Garvey was brought before the Jamaica court, where the judges sentenced him to 3 months in the St. Catherine District Prison, along with a fine of £100. This sentence put a halt to his legislative council campaign. This prison term did not deter or silence Garvey or Marcus. He eventually took part in another set of elections, i.e. the Kingston and St. Andrews Corporation KSAC Council election, which was soon due. Garvey entered this election as a candidate while campaigning from inside prison. He won the seat for Ward Number 3. On release from prison, he entered 3 meetings of the KSAC Council. Some of the members of the council attempted to unseat him on a technicality that he had missed free consecutive meetings of council. While he was in prison, the seat was declared vacant, and a by-election held. Marcus eventually re-won the seat unopposed. The KSAC was eventually closed down by the colonial authorities in September 1930, and when they reopened in 1931, Marcus remained as a member of the council. While serving as a KSAC council member, Marcus also fought a bitter struggle for the acceptance of an 8-hour day and a minimum wage for all council workers. This battle was never won. In 1934, the UNIA held a 7th International Convention. At this convention, the UNIA delegates agreed with a proposal 5-year plan of the UNIA to reorganize itself. In addition, the convention also sanctioned the ideas of Marcus Garvey to move its operation to London. It was generally agreed by delegates that if Garvey was made to operate from a major world capital, the problems of bringing together the fragment of the UNIA should be solved easier. Marcus Messiah Garvey left Kingston, Jamaica for United Kingdom in April 1935. For the last time, he never again put his foot on Jamaica soil. In August 1938, the UNI under Marcus Garvey held an 8th and final convention in Toronto, Canada. Sometime in 1937, Garvey visited a series of Caribbean islands. Among them were Trinidad and Tobago, Eugenia, Dominica, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, Barbados, Antigua. But his ship did not stop in Kingston, Jamaica. It was said that everywhere he stopped had large cheerful crowds gathering around to hear his message and speeches. In Trinidad, the authorities attempted to bar him from entering the island, but because of the deputy mayor, Captain Arthur Caparini, who came to his assistance, he was eventually given permission to land. On June the 10th, 1940, the man Marcus Messiah Garvey passed from a stroke in England without ever setting foot on the African continent. When Garvey passed, he was approaching his 53rd birthday. In 1964, Garvey was proclaimed a national hero, ONH. Becoming Jamaica's first national hero. Out of the doctrine of black nationalism philosophy of Marcus Messiah Garvey, out of the doctrine of black nationalist philosophy of Marcus Garvey, 2 famous movements developed in the Western world. The Black Muslim, i.e. the Nation of Islam, emerged during the late 1930s in the United States of America, led by the former corporal of the UNIA, Elijah Muhammad, and 2, the Rastafari movement, developed in Jamaica around the time of the coronation of Emperor Rastafari. Selassie, the Rastafari movement has now grown in large proportions to include every island in the Caribbean, Europe, Americas, and the African continent. Therefore, Garvey lives in these movements. In 1925, after being sentenced to serve 5 years in the Atlanta prison, Garvey wrote his following: "If I die in Atlanta, my work shall then only begun. But I shall live in the physical or spiritual to see the day of Africa's glory. When I am dead, wrap the mantle of the red, black, and green around me, for in the new life I shall rise with God's grace and blessing to lead the millions up the heights of triumph with the colors that you well know. Look for me in the whirlwind or the storm. Look for me all around you. Look for God's grace. I shall come and bring with me countless millions of black slaves who have died in America and in the West Indies and the millions of Africa to aid you in the fight of liberty, freedom, and life. Marcus, Messiah Garvey, John, Marcus I, for we were willing for a season to rejoice in his light. The mighty black prophet, Marcus Messiah Garvey. In the week of in the week of emancipation, in the week of reparation, in the week when we celebrate the life that is with us, in the week when we celebrate the God that is with us, the one in three, the three in one, the blessed Trinity, our holy prophet, our blessed spirit, our wonderful essence, Marcus Messiah Garvey. Let us sing for our King. You're listening to Bobo Ras Anthony on blessradio.org internationally. Blessed love, my lords and empresses, prince and princesses, one and all listeners, in the month of reparation, in the month of emancipation, in the month when all the ancient souls idicate together, mustering words that should be consoled, bringing up yesterday that should be renewed and sealed, seeking love, that we may go on. Let us change hands. Let there be a righteous plan in the earth. Let us shake hands. Because we have done good to each other. For we live today for tomorrow. Let us not be selfish, worthless. Let us do right before God and man and all people, that tomorrow may be a place that will help us dwell with grace. Holy King Emmanuel, King Sebastian, Jah, Rastafari.
soul unto vanity. And not lifted up their soul unto vanity. Not sworn deceitfully. Not sworn
Listening to Bubba, Ras Anthony on blessradio.org international. The glory of the King.
King of glory.
wonderful and melodic, harmonious, just the way Jaja like it, just the way Jaja like it. Jaja no want no organized chaos, no bangarang. Jaja say him love it harmonious and melodic. Jaja, so Jaja speak, them kind of words that Jaja speak concerning the music that are played by the players and the singers of instruments. So we give thanks to our Father, for He is a glorious King, and He is worthy to be praised. We give thanks to Him for everything, for the life that we live, for the person we be, for the life and for the love and for the mercy and for the strength that He bestows upon us, for everything that He has done, do, and has did for us. We ask of Him perpetually to be our guide in everything that we do and say. For people have their own way and do their own things, but that which is true is the only thing that can be professed. We say words without works are no works at all. Kio them a chat, kio them a guan, kio them a sese, man for stand firm, woman to be right. Remember, words without works only make a fuss. But words with works, in that we can trust. These are the words of the Right Honorable Baba Ras Anthony, Holy King Emmanuel I, King Selassie I, Jah, Rastafari, Sila. As we proceed. In 1955, the British invaded Jamaica, the third largest island in the Caribbean Sea. Their defeat of the Spaniards opened the door for Britain to develop a transatlantic trade in enslaved Africans that would last for the better part of 400 years. European traders uprooted hundreds of millions of Africans and transplanted them in the New World, compressing North America, South America, and the Caribbean. Over the next 100 years, this world would become outposts for the major European states' supply and creation. Under British rule, Port Royal was Jamaica's capital city until 1692. It was the home of the world's most famous pirates, including the notorious Henry Morgan, and had earned the reputation of being the wickedest city on earth. In 1692, an earthquake destroyed Port Royal. The destruction of Port Royal was likened by Rastafari to God's destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah in the Old Testament, and it occurred 200 years after Columbus' voyage of discovery. Is also considered significant throughout the 1700s. The enslavement and transportation of Africans and Americas supported a colonial enterprise based on sugarcane, agriculture. Such were the conditions of slavery in the islands that Jamaica was notorious for rebellions. The high mortality rate for the enslaved Africans laborers drew attention to the institution of slavery, and especially to the nature of repatriation for Jamaican residents' tradition. The importation of Africans and the system of slavery ended formally in most of the Americas by the close of the 19th century. Within a generation of the British West Indies Emancipation Act of 1834, the Africans inhabited the regions had called attention for their lack of social and political status. It was to take another century through the Moyon Commission for the right of African Jamaicans to be enlightened for policy action, particularly as it related to educational advancement. So through Africans that were legally free, though Africans were legally free, it took another century of struggle after emancipation for Africans to begin to achieve a political voice. Rastafari in Jamaica represents some of the most agricultural voices within this history of resident expression, leadership of Africans, masses, and the voicing of the harsh conditions for the majority of the population was being advanced by some individuals that the colonial society considered to be its enemy. One such individual was Paul Bogle, who rose up in 1865 in Morant Bay, Jamaica, leading a march to bring charge to the African condition, highlighting that the ending of slavery had brought little or no change to African Jamaicans. Bogle was executed by the authorities for this move, and it took yet another generation in 1890s before Alexander Bedwood, revivalist, healer, leader, emerged in Kingston. He had a message of black liberation that he communicated through the practice of the revival religion. Bedwood spoke in the prophetic language of the time, and how this brought to the tune of liberation to still oppress African Jamaicans. He prophesied the emergence of a black wall to crush the white wall that exists. He also developed great fame and following for healing persons in the Hope River of St. Andrews, Jamaica. Bedwood and Bogle were among the first leaders who began to preach of the need of racial advancement for the Africans in Jamaica society. Unlike Bogle, Bedwood was not executed but sent to the asylum for his ideas, which were considered insane, where he died in 1930, days after the coronation of Emperor Haile Selassie. In 1933, 5 years after Marcus Garvey was deported from United States, being imprisoned there, the Rastafari founding patriot Leonard Howell, who was also deported from the United States, emerged in Jamaica, preaching a message of rejection of the colonial state and embrace the Ethiopia by 1940. Holy King Emmanuel I, King Selassie I, Jah, Rastafari. You're listening to Baba Ras Anthony on blessradio.org internationally. We're moving through the time. We're moving through the time that closed the door upon hardship, woe, tears, and worry. We're looking back at those times that we will never forget, that will give us strength in this time and give us the keys to tomorrow. As the man them say, I just Jah Rastafari. Leonard Howell, Leonard Percival Howell, is considered the founding patriot of Rastafari movement. He was born in the parish of Clarendon. My mother born a Clarendon. My mother is a Clarendon girl, you know. Right? Jamaica on 16th of June, 1898. After migrating to the United States, a young owl joined Marcus Garvey UNIA movement. Garvey quickly recognized his leadership and business abilities, and soon he became one of the top literatures in the UNIA. It is said, however, that he and Garvey had differences regarding Howell's practices of faith healing, viewed by many in Garvey's circle as obia, and therefore undesirable. He was deported back to Jamaica in 1932, 2 years after the coronation of King Selassie in 1930, which he claimed to have witnessed. Haile Selassie had captured the attention of the world through his Masonic rise to power in Ethiopia. And upon his his Howell began publicly preaching of the importance of the coming of the Black Messiah in Ethiopia. In Jamaica, Howell established the first association paying homage to the emperor. This was known as the King of Kings mission, and Howell, was the self-appointed ambassador of the Ethiopian emperor in Jamaica. Howell was also inspired to write the movement's first religious text, The Promised Key. This book outlined the philosophy, belief, and practice of the early Rastafarians movement. It repeated reference to the King Alpha, Queen Omega balance, and the empowering description of the Ethiopian woman, the Rastafari woman, were consistent with Haile Selassie acts of having Empress Menen crowned at the same time as himself. Speaking of the universe and the womanhood of man, Queen Omega, the Ethiopian woman is the crown woman of the world. She hands us her rule book from the poles of supreme authority. She is the canon mistress of creation. It was our faith healing work in the parish of St. Thomas that brought him to national attention. Howell's reputation propelled his rise to become leader of a new Rastafari cult, as they put it. Rastafari are not a cult, but so them have with them time they still. In Jamaica, this message of the cult was considered dangerous. It preached Africa in a new and celebrity way. It argued that African redemption was at hand, that the white monarch of England was an impostor, that the existing teachers and preachers were deceivers and perpetrators of falsehood, and that true salvation was now in the hand of the legacy Emperor of Ethiopia and his divine laws. Howell exhorted his followers to stop paying taxes to the King of England and refrain from using the banking system. Howell's message did not go over well with the established churches or the government. They charged him with sedition, and he was tried, convicted, and sent to prison. Upon his release, Howell's message continued. He soon gained a large following, and in 1940 set up the first Rastafari village encampment of 40 acres in Silgoville, St. Catherine, The settlement was known as Pinnacle and comprised approximately 800 men, women, and children. They made a living by planting crops and selling them at the major market in Kingston. Howell was held as a supreme leader, and some treated him with Christ-like reverence. He introduced himself to his congregation as Gangaru Maharaj. Kangaroo Maharaj, a Hindu title meaning teacher of wisdom. Howell is thought to have been influenced by fairly large Indian population in Kingston and his home parish in Clarendon. He was becoming influential and the authorities were watching him closely. In the middle of 1941, Harold the Gong, the moniker of Bob Marley's nickname, and the name of his record studio, Tough Gong, was derived. As his followers called him, received a vision that a raid was apparent. In early summer 1941, the government military stormed the camp and arrested more than 70 Howellites. Their legal target, however, was nowhere to be found. Legend has it that Howell disguised himself as a woman and escaped to the nearby hills. Why, what a judgment, eh? The things I and I prophets and priests have forgot you. Just believe. Seeing? When he found refuge, he returned to the camp in July for that year and told his contact inform the police that he was ready to face the court on August the 20th. He was tired of sedition and sentenced. He was tried for sedition and sentenced to 2 years in prison. His third time behind bars. Upon the release in 1943, he returned to Pinnacle. Howell attracted various individuals, especially single mothers and orphans. He indeed was a father of many, providing them with food, shelter, and clothing, as well as developing their interpretorial skills to help them survive. Our Father Howell, Blessed Father, Mighty Father, Holy One of Israel. Let us bless his holy and righteous name. In this reparation week, in this reparation month, when all the kings are gathered, it is said of Aichicha, he sits between two burdens. He sits between two burdens. John, Marcus, my father is a Aichicha, and my firstborn son is a Aichicha. And all of them stay the same. They always sit between burdens. And bear, John, Marcus, Jah, Rastafari, Sila, my Lord. As we continue, Archibald Dunkley, Patriot Henry Archibald Dunkley, Patriot Henry Archibald Dunkley was a seaman with the U.S.-owned United Fruit Company. After returning to Jamaica in December 1931, he charged professions and started to preach the message of Rastafari as a son of God. He is said to have revived at the conclusion after 2.5 years of Bible study that allowed him to see and interpret the emerging of Haile Selassie as the Messiah, whom Garvey had prophesied. In the middle of 1933, Dunkley came to public attention while preaching this message in downtown Kingston, politically in the slums of West Kingston where he resided. Dunkley and Hibbert were known to have worked together sometimes and jointly founded the EWF, Local 17, which subsequently dissolved to facilitate the early teaching of the message concerning the emperor. Perhaps one of the most unique features of Dunkley was his use of the sword at meetings, a feature more characteristic of revivalism and austere religion tradition than Rastafari. Oddly enough, it was reported that Dunkley was reversed to revivalist practice. Dunkley, as did Owl and Hines, experienced a number of police arrests and imprisonment because of the message he was advocating. Robert Hines was born in Linstead, St. Catherine's, and was a follower of Alexander Bedwood, one of the first revivalist shepherds to emerge in Kingston, and subsequently a follower of Garvey. Hines first came to public attention through his arrest and imprisonment in 1921 after followers of Bedouin started to march through the streets of Kingston to do battle with the enemies. The link with Bedouin established the early connection between the revivalist religious traditions and the Rastafari movement, a connection that was to be further strengthened by Prince Emmanuel Charles Edwards, who founded the Ethiopia Africa Black International Congress. Them couldn't see him when Marcus did them out, for he was building. When King Selassie come, he was in the high office. When them a kill I at Coral Gardens, he was nowhere to be seen. But he was watching over us with his heart. Prince Emmanuel Charles Edwards, who founded the Ethiopian Africa Black International Congress. Let us be blessed in all of our priests and our prophets' holiness. All of them bear. If you don't bear, you cannot swear. You be like stone, be like a root on stony ground, easily to pluck and to pull, to tear and to rent. Marcus served in time in prison for the sake of his people. Leonard P. Howell, the same. Every one of us bear for the sake of our Father, just like our Father. The terminology is different in this time for Babylon Red. Them no want thief and go to jail, so what them do, them sell souls and eat up I people like bread. Written in the scripture are nothing new. Just remember, children of the Most High, at them time, be skillful in your ways, be right and be true. For the wicked, when them now nothing, they be coming for you. Be blessed in His holiness. You're listening to Baba Ras Anthony on blessradio.org internationally. You know, preaching the good word of Rastafari. You know, standing up for the righteousness of Baba Shanti through the powers of King Emmanuel Charles Edwards. Remember, God with us means Emmanuel. So we call him Selassie, because he's the God with us, Emmanuel. A time for us to put 1 and 2 together and make 3. See, it's not time for us to put 1 and 2 together and make 5. You know, it's time for us to stand up and trust one another and be trusted, that our word may not fall upon the ground. Marcus Garvey said, seek the highest science, and that is within nature. Come, we use technology. Don't let it abuse us and take away our ingenuity and our intellectual What's the word? Innovation. Let us see creation. They say the Christ walketh upon water. How? Everything is water. Water in solid, water in flesh, water in herb, water in everything. Water in your soul. Take your creation, the water of your creation, and put it before you. And give not your pearls unto swines, for they seek to take them through iniquity. Put your water before you and let it work for you. And let us, children of the Most High, walk upon water. Water is life, and life is water. The Father said, righteousness shall cover the earth as water covereth the sea. He who has an ear, let him hear. He who has eyes, let him see. But he who has a word, let him speak. For God speaketh through him. You're listening to Ras Anthony on blessradio.org internationally. Every Sunday from 10 to 12, you know. I just righteousness, you know. Nothing else not there. Nothing else not there but spend money and yam food. And live in a house. You understand? Come with the righteous that we get the blessing from righteousness, the joy from righteousness, the love from righteousness. You know? And everything with righteousness I forget. You could imagine Father Christmas can't give present like Jaja Rastafari, you know. Father Christmas will bring you a socks and a jumper. Jaja will give you the whole world. Come and praise the Almighty and receive all of His goodness.
Who have set thy glory above the heavens? Out of the mouth of babe and suckling of thou art then strength, O Lord Most High. That thou mightest steal the enemy and their veins, O Lord great God. When I consider the heaven, the work of thy fingers, moon and the star which thou hast ordained. What is man that thou art mindful of him? Or the son of man that thou visitest him? Thou hast created him a little lower than the angels. Crown him with glory and honor, O Lord Most High. Give him dominion over the work of all thy hands, work of all thy fingers, O great God. All fowl of the air and fish of the sea, beast of the field and whatsoever passes through the parts of the sea. Oh Lord, excellent is thy name in all the earth. Excellent Manuel, Celestia, Rastafari, Rastafari. Up with the promised land at this hour. Could die and go to heaven to your Father. Black coats of Israel must know the land of promise, the Lord Most High, Celestia.
True. Holy King Emmanuel, I, King Selassie, Jah, Rastafari, Sila, my Lord. My Lord and Empress, Prince and Princess, one and all listeners, and I bless you from the heart, Prophet, Priest, and King, God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy One. Holy King Emmanuel, I, King Selassie, Jah, Rastafari. The devil said, bet Jah that Job would give up righteousness. Just go on then now, but don't touch his flesh. The devil has no bones. but pure evil wickedness. Bits of evil wickedness holding him together. Coming in any form of flesh or spirit. If the devil follows you, be as sharp as a serpent, but be as wise as Jadov. 40 days and 40 nights did Christ Emmanuel stay from I and I. No food, just tassel and hassle. Iniquity workers, you know. There's good and evil in every heart nowadays. But blessed are they that seek good and take the right part. For the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life. Jah did have to build the bottomless pit first, naturally. If not created, it is said that it would reside under the earth with herbs, reptiles of all shapes, dinosaurs. He did have to build that first, so it reside at the bottom of the earth, and monsters, and he sunk it, that it be placed for the evils of his own creation, to dwell for Jah knoweth the beginnings and the ends of all, for all. And all was done by him. Children of the Most High, let us seek righteousness and pursue it. Holy King Emmanuel, King Selassie, Jah, Rastafari. Don't go down there, them. I can't conquer hell, God. Oh, blessed love, my lords and empresses. Well, that's it for today. I hope that the item get a fullness and receive a righteousness. For that is the intentions every week when I come before thee. You know, the weeks may be hard for I and I, but righteousness never changes for no one. Righteousness remains the same. Come on, let us deal with ours. Many of us have crosses to bear, but unto Jah Rastafari we shall swear. You know, time heals all things. Emperors and empresses, prince and princesses. So you just be strong, you know, yeah, and praise the Almighty One. You know, look to the east for the coming, you know, for from the east he shall come, you know, yeah, with love and peace for everyone. From the heart, Bobo Ras Anthony, to all Rastafari people, stand up for Negus, you know, for he's the mighty son of creation and the father of all iration. You know, yeah, do good. And good will always follow you, you know. Yeah, be still in times of need, you know, and don't move before you have to move. Speak not before you have to speak, but if you have to speak, speak. Let's stand in line and give Jah the glory, you know, for he set the plan for mankind. Let us follow in righteousness and receive all the blessings that it has. I bless you this day, and I thank you for your listening ear. I am the Right Honorable Prophet, Bobo Ras Anthony. Until next week, 10 till 12. Blessed love.
Where mansions are prepared.